Welcome to the Paisans podcast. We're your hosts, the brothers from other mothers, Dante, Dave, and Sark. Join us as we talk about current events, our wives, kids, or whatever else life is throwing at us this week. You're with the Paisans, you're with family. Awesome. It was great catching up, I have to say. So right when I got there, like we were texting before I got there, like I kept saying to him, I'm going to get there at this time, and this is when we can get together. So I was at my hotel by probably 3:30, and so yeah, it was nice. But to me, think about this: at 3:30, it was like 6:30, in my body. But it was like, all right, I'm going to hang out for a while. So I waited. By the time I went to the hotel, not to the hotel. I went over to the restaurant. I got the lay of the land, and it was actually really conveniently located. So I just crossed over onto the pier and went to a restaurant, got a seat at the bar, and then he showed up not long after. And it was great to see him, And so, first of all, I ended up having like a bit of an episode because he sits down, I order food, I order a second drink. Now, I don't think I drink any water. And like the whole day I hadn't eaten anything. I got up in the morning, I got on my flight, I didn't eat a thing. Maybe I had one bag of like a little, not like almost like a bag of nuts and pretzels thing, that was it. So he got up, he shows up and we sit down, he starts talking. He's not talking for 10 minutes and I'm seeing stars, man. And like, I started to dip. I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, I don't know what's wrong with me, Nick. I'm sorry, man. I had to like put my head down and I had to sit there for a good 5 minutes. At one point I was like, I think maybe we just need to go back to like my room or something. I felt terrible. I was like, this is horrible. I'm going to ruin the whole night. I'm thinking they're going to call the ambulance if I can't get myself up, which is not what I wanted. I was like, I think I'm going to be okay. And sure enough, like after 5 minutes or so, like I sort of was like, all right, I got some water. And then it all came back and I felt like a million times better. And then I was perfectly fine. And then so we just hung out. We enjoyed the time. So
that was the day you flew in.
It's a 6-hour flight. Plus then I sat around for hours. I hadn't eaten. I had barely drank anything. The hotel is like, oh yeah, there's bottles of water here for you, $4 each. It's like, geez, like a little bottle of water, not even a big one. So what he said, and I think he was right, is like, you sat there and then finally you got a little bit of something in your stomach. You got a little bit of food and all the blood went right to your stomach. I was like, yeah, that could be. And then I also remembered I had given blood like 3 or 4 days earlier. So I'm like low on blood anyway. So I think all that stuff must have been the reason, because I've never once had an issue like that where I mean, when I wasn't, okay, maybe once or twice when I was severely inebriated, but this was not the case. I was not drunk, like I was just.
Unless somebody tried to slip you a roofie, what kind of bar were you in?
It was because I really do think it was like all the blood just left my head, because once I recovered, I felt perfectly fine. We continued to hang out. I had another drink. Yeah. I finished my food and everything. Like I was fine.
Flying alone, really dehydrates you. I mean, you wake up in the middle of the night and you feel totally parched.
Yes.
And I felt that way the entire time I was there.
And I always find in hotels, I feel like there's no relief. Like unless I've in advance purchased several bottles of water, which I've actually thought ahead to do in the past. But Mike, I think you're absolutely right. Like I wake up in the morning and sometimes I'm like, I go to the sink and I'm like,
honestly, you need to bring a water bottle with you when you travel, even if it's like in the States. You should always have a water bottle with you.
You're right, Dave. But I drink it all, and then to refill it.
Sometimes it can be difficult, but
right.
There are opportunities.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right.
The tap water where I was tasted like crap. It was, like you almost had to drink the bottled water. And then the bottled water, they had the cheap stuff like the Deer Park totally frozen bottles for $4. And then they had the smart water in like the silver containers for $8. And at that point, you're parched.
Disgusting.
And you could be licking ice, or you're just going to crack open the $8 one.
Exactly. That's how they got me this time. So it turns out, Mike, when you were in Huntington Beach, so we weren't as close as I really thought. Here I thought that we were all like, that you and I were going to be like passing in the night. Like we're literally both right there. It's also really confusing. I don't quite get LA and how it's laid out. Like Long Beach is like, Nick said it was like, he's in Burbank. So he said it was like 45 minutes without traffic, which I was like, oh, like I didn't realize it was that far. I figured it would be like 15 minutes, like it's other side of the same city. But
and
no,
how would you know
apparently-
what it's like without traffic? Isn't there traffic there 24/7?
He said that when he was leaving, because as he was leaving, he's like, oh, there won't be any traffic now. At this hour, it's like, it'll take me 40 minutes.
He's like, I
Like,
still
oh.
off-road, Dante. Like, I don't drive on the roads. You think I go on the freeway?
Roads? Where we're going, we don't need roads. So, Dave, he had this Ford Bronco, and it was like one of those old tanks, man. I mean, when he got the thing, it was old. I don't even know. I have no idea what model year it was, but we were driving in like 1990, 1991.
This is
But
a
that thing was
pre-OJ
tank.
Bronco, though, I guess, right? Pre-OJ Bronco?
Correct. Pre-OJ. Pre-OJ.
Steal that thing, man.
Yes. And let's just say we tested the strength of that thing.
Damn, that thing.
I don't even know like what ended up happening to it when it was all said and done, Mike, but that car, man, if that car could talk, we'd all be in jail.
It's probably still out there, man. That thing was invulnerable.
It was not designed for comfort. Like it was definitely designed for, purpose. Without telling too much of the story, like we used to encourage Nick to take it on the unpaved portion of the earth. And on occasion, he would accommodate us.
What did he do, like, after the car? Did he sell it, or...
That's actually something we can ask him. I would like to know when we talk to him, like what happened to that car. But like he would on occasion just be like driving through one of our neighborhoods and just be like, "Oh, what? Turn, drive up and across, like you drive right across somebody's."
Those were the times where it really like dawned on me that we had created a monster, because it was so damn funny when he was doing it like on his own lawn in his own neighborhood. Then he would show up in your neighborhood and do it to your neighbor's lawn. And you're like, what have I done? There's just no stopping him. And the more you begged him not to do it, the more it was guaranteed that he was going to do it.
It's impossible. It's really impossible to recreate. Like the greatest of times, they're impossible to recreate for so many reasons. Part of it is just sort of the mood, like we would all go see a movie together and we would hang out before the movie, and then we would, go see the movie, and we'd be eating candy and garbage, and we hadn't even discovered alcohol yet. Like we were pretty innocent as far as all that goes, but we would eat junk food.
Yeah.
And we would be going to see a movie, and then we'd all be like on our way back to my house to sleep, or going to Nick's house to sleep, or like whatever. We'd all go crash at one person's house, and we'd all just be like hyped up and like in these great moods. And like Mike said, like he would just like in your neighborhood, he's like a block away from where he's going to park the car all night, pull up onto somebody's driveway and it's not even a divot, like put massive tracks like through the middle of their lawn, and then drive the car like a muddy mess, leave a trail right up to where he parked it. Like
that's what I was wondering. I was like, how did he never get in trouble? Like, it must have been like he has the only car that's capable of doing this in the whole neighborhood. It's like who could have possibly done this?
But it's like in the movie where it's like the next morning and you follow the trail, like the obvious trail of like in this case mud and like grass and maybe the occasional broken off piece of bumper. You're like walking up and like, oh well, there's the car. Like the rear tire is caked in mud and kicked up grass.
Muddy footprints up the steps with Nick just passed out in his bed.
It's like, I don't know what happened.
I don't understand how people are believing this. Like, how did that happen?
Or how about like living, like 4 blocks away from Nick and waking up to find that the 2 trees on your front lawn have been cut down and are gone. You notice that the car 4 blocks away has those 2 trees tied to the top of it, but the driver doesn't know where they came from. He just woke up and they were there. And they're like, we were watching you guys from our front window while you were cutting those trees down. And the only reason we didn't come out is because we thought you were dangerous.
Like the cops were never involved in something like that.
He was pulled over by the chief of police on the day that we graduated high school. As he left the parking lot, he off-road. We were not in the car with him, but we gave him the idea, Nick. You know what to do. So he goes in the car and he does like figure eights on the high school lawn. And then about a block later gets pulled over by the chief of police, who gives him a warning because it's graduation day. And because it's the small town of Hillsborough at that time. So a warning existed.
Yeah, you wouldn't get away with that now.
No, he
No
would have been
way.
in cuffs,
Oh,
face down.
Mike, I think the thinking was, if you can confirm for me, like, let's make the car look like invisible, like it's
Invisible.
been camouflaged, right?
Yeah.
So let's cover it like in leaves and branches, and so
No one will ever know that it's there.
the goal of the night was to cover the thing in leaves and branches, and then I think one of us, who shall not be named, but I remember specifically it was, suggested that we take. Nick had a cardboard cutout of Tracy Lords. Like, okay, so Nick would get movie promotional boards and promotional posters and stuff. Like, there was a while, especially when we were in high school, that was pretty cool. Like, to get that type of stuff. Like, you could go to the movie theater and ask them when when the movie shuts, can I get this poster or whatever? And he would get the promotional boards or whatever. And Tracy Lords was in, might have been Blade or some movie that she was in. So he had like a full life-size card out of Tracy Lords in his room or something. And it was like, oh, what if, let's put Tracy Lords on top of the car too. So we had the car covered in branches and leaves. And then we tied down the Tracy Lords carbon cutout.
Standing on the top of it.
Standing on top. And he drove that around town for, I don't know, 2 days at least, right?
He did. And it held up pretty well too.
It did hold up pretty well. Now, I do recall, if I recall, Hillsborough's Finest were involved at some point too. And basically their response to seeing it was to laugh, tell us we were a bunch of idiots, and to say, get this all off after you get home from graduation, basically.
Put it back where you found it.
I mean, look, here's what I will say, okay? As idiotic, I mean, like, look, call it what it is. Like, we were being idiotic. But when you're a teenage boy, like, being idiotic is sort of the adventure of your lifetime. What more is, there's no war, and like, thank God.
Yeah.
So like, what else are you going to do? So the adventures of your lifetime are little, and we made them adventures, I mean,
that's right.
Getting all those leaves and branches was kind of an adventure, and like almost being found, and then just all those experiences, like obviously we have great stories to tell. And when it was all said and done, like, nobody was ever really in any danger. I mean, it wasn't as if we were speeding on the highway 150 miles an hour.
Yeah.
And so you'd like to think that in the grand scheme of things, what you do in a situation like that is you say to the kids, you say, stop being idiots. Make sure this gets cleaned up. Now, if I see you're not cleaning this up, now there's going to be consequences. But, to take us and book us and put it on records and force us to come back from college to go, like, that's not going to do anybody any good. If you're a police officer, you don't want to be arresting kids for stupid things like that. Like, you want to be dealing with, like, you want to be like correcting where you can correct, and then dealing with real criminals when they need to be dealt with.
I feel like when I was growing up, which was around, you guys were in high school like 14, 15 years before I was. I feel like by the time I was in high school, Hillsborough had grown so much, first off. But then also we had a cop that was on our campus, and I felt like he was kind of looking for stuff to like pop. Like he had he had his nose more in things, and like he was literally on our campus at Bridgewater. So it's big school, 700, 750 in my graduating class. So school probably 3,000 plus people. So it makes sense. But yeah, he has his nose more in things. He his name. He knew a lot of kids by name. I mean, kids always getting in trouble. So it is kind of interesting how quickly that kind of shifted in that mindset. And then,
well, that's a huge, like, Dave, our graduating class was about 250 people.
I was going to say it was like 280 or something.
Like,
Hillsborough, when I graduated, was
like that.
similar to what the Bridgewater class. So it was probably about 750 kids also, I would imagine, or 600, something like that.
It's gotten huge. Like, it's not huge.
Probably bigger now.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
It's blown up. It's really blown up for sure. And I'm sure you're right, Dave. I mean, we certainly had nothing like that at the time. They probably have resource officers, or unless they're actually officially police,
Yeah, this
on
guy was
campus at
officially
this point
police.
to do.
He was officially
Okay.
police. Mhm.
Okay. Well,
So
they do that,
Do you remember at Hillsborough? I think this was our senior year when they had like those real life 21 Jump Street cops. It was like one student. Dave, they had like a real life undercover cop posing as a student. And she was
Was it-
trying to infiltrate drug selling, drug use, right?
was it
Yes.
something everyone knew? Like, did you guys, everyone, like, while it was happening, you're like, that
I
person's
feel like
clearly
it was a
cop.
rumor. No, I feel like it was right away. Everybody was like, this person's a cop.
Yeah.
And they still managed to like ingratiate themselves with a lot of people and like,
They did.
right? It sure seemed to me like they were a cop. Like, or at least
Yeah.
that was the rumor. I remember and then I remember when we found out, I was like, didn't everybody know that this person was a police officer? Like, wasn't it obvious?
I think they made arrests, right? Or at least juvenile
They did.
arrests.
I'd love to look back now and see what the charges were and like understand what the quantities were, because
Mm-hmm.
I would hate to think that they went through all that effort and in the end they really just busted a couple of kids for having, some pot. And then, they reported in the news like having up to $10,000 worth of blah, 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 because they take whatever it is and they break it down according to like, okay, if you sold it in the smallest quantities possible and sold all of it, how much would it be worth?
Yeah.
The absolute maximum value, Don't get me wrong. I'm not for like diminishing. I just am saying they could make it really sound like a kid who they found like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what these cops
Yeah.
in these towns a lot of times are doing, honestly. They're just like cracking down on stuff like that because there's not that much other crime happening.
You had a friend, right, Dave, who got in trouble for underage purchasing, right? Buying alcohol underage.
I was involved in something like that. I don't know if that's where you were getting at, but
That's what I was getting at.
yeah. So
Wasn't somebody?
Mark,
Don't you know somebody well who that happened to?
yeah, myself guilty, I guess. I don't know. Yeah, no, that happened like a week before my 21st birthday too, which was some bullshit. These cops. I was in college. It was in Mawa. I went to Ramapo College, so these Mawa cops. They were just sitting in the parking lot, just like waiting for young people to walk out of the liquor store. I think the liquor store closes at 10. It was like 9:50 when we got there, 9:55, like end of the night. It's probably the last thing that they did all night. Yeah, and I didn't even buy it. I was just in there. I carried it out. And my friend who was 21 actually bought it, and he got in trouble.
That's what it was. So somebody bought it
Yes.
legally, and because you were carrying it out, you got busted.
Oh, man.
Come on, man.
I remember I told the guy, I was like, when I was a kid, I'd go with my dad to the liquor store. He'd buy like a case of beer, and I'd like help him carry some of that out. And no one was like arresting me. You know what I mean?
Really? What's his name and address?
Dave, how did they treat you? Did they cuff you?
Yeah, oh, yeah. I got arrested.
Behind your back or in front?
Behind my back.
Behind your back.
Mm-hmm. Went in the police car.
Why
and
not
everything.
treat you like a common criminal?
Wow.
Yeah, I was like in a cell
obviously,
for
it's
not
like-
an actual cell. They like put me in like a room for I don't know, like an hour for some reason. Then I left. It's just like so ridiculous. Just ruined the night. Like I got out and it was like I was in college, so it was still early enough that I was up, and I got out by like midnight.
But what
Sometimes
happened
what
to the
these
other guy?
cops do.
Nothing, because he was 21.
They said he was
Probably
providing
for
to a
supplying
minor.
to minors or something.
Right, exactly.
Got it.
At the end of the day,
I mean, it's just some.
this thing kind of just like becomes a fine that you pay, and they reduce the ticket, but you have to go to court. But it becomes nothing really at the end of the day. But just a major inconvenience for nothing too. It's like it's not real crime.
It's. I think you could argue whether there was even a crime being committed. I mean, the fact of the matter is, somebody who was legally of age who was buying it. Okay, you took it and carried it out. So I'm sure that by the letter of the law, that's wrong. And so it's like, okay, by the letter of the law, but by common sense, the fact is the guy who bought it is going home with you. Like you know what I'm saying? Like it just feels so trivial
Yeah.
to
Well,
arrest.
also, I mean, the fact that it was a week before my 21st birthday. I mean, I think that's the part that
throw that on top of it.
Yes.
Right. It's like, where's the common sense, officers?
Yeah.
look, looking at your ID, like it's not like you gave him a fake ID. Looking at your ID, and he's like, "Oh, geez, you're a week away from being 21, and you're
Yeah.
buying his. Where are you guys going? You going to a party together? All right, you can't drink. You carry this stuff. You don't carry this stuff anymore
Right.
until for another week. Get out of here. You know, it's like saves himself a ton of paperwork.
I have one thing
But-
to add about this story that I'm just remembering. It's like all coming
Oh.
back to me now because I'm thinking about this story. Cop goes to search the car. I think I drove. One of us drove. I forget. Goes to search the car. We didn't have anything in the car. Goes to the wrong car. Opens the door. He goes, "Whoo! Smells like weed in here." I was like, "That's not my car." He goes, like, "What?" Like, yeah, like, oh, my car's over there. And then the guy whose car actually walks out. And the cop's like, "Yeah, you should probably get out of here because like I accidentally opened your car door." So think about that for a second. An actual
Right.
crime that he saw.
Yep. Right.
But
Right.
he had no right to actually go in that guy's car, so he can't do anything. And then he's making an arrest,
And that's too
two arrests,
complicated.
actually.
You're really easy,
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
too much work.
That's exactly
Right.
right.
That's
exactly
100%. This will be nice, quick, easy.
Yeah.
You know, we were out here.
Yeah.
They probably sat out in front of that liquor store for a few hours. That was probably their night. And they were probably just waiting. I probably wasn't even the first one that they got.
Mm-hmm.
Probably had another one before that, I'm sure.
I love that he walked up to the wrong car and opened the door.
Right.
I love
Like,
that.
It's almost symbolic. You know, it's just it's so perfect. And you guys, Hillsboro's a suburban community, so it's like your access to that type of stuff is probably going to be shielded unless you see some sort of outside source in most cases.
Correct.
So
Correct.
Yeah.
probably have a few people
like-
that did it, but you guys were probably the majority too. Like we're probably like you guys.
Yeah, for the most part. I
Mhm.
don't think. I mean, it certainly wasn't like it is today. Now I'm sure you can. It's not a problem at all. But at that time, I think that stuff was pretty. I mean, I don't know. It wasn't something we had access to.
No, and it's interesting, Dave, like to your point, right? Like these cops just in your situation trying to, create an issue.
Yeah.
Or maybe they're there to find something, so they're gonna find something. And like, I always wondered with our high school and the Jump Street cops, I wonder if it was that somebody reported that there was a problem in the neighborhood or in the school and they sent somebody in to check it out, or was that some type of a program that they were doing in schools? Like I had no other point of reference. I mean, none of us really did at the time, but I wonder if it was just sort of like a more common thing that they would do this and see what they come up with, right? Because that was the whole big say no to drugs still. And remember, we had the giant thing like on the school lawn, say no to drugs.
Did you have
What's
DARE
that?
when you were in
Oh,
elementary
yeah.
school
Oh yeah,
or high school?
absolutely.
Yeah, that's sort of what I'm referring to. Yeah.
We did my school, I think. Oh yeah, my school did a thing right before prom where they do this experiment where they pick a few kids out of the class and they're like, you passed away in a drunk driving accident type of thing, and then like they were removed from school, and then like you don't see them for like a whole day. Like they remove them like first thing from school, and then it's like the whole idea is like this person's gone
Right,
now,
yeah.
so you just like that's. I don't remember what the program's called, but I just remember that those people leaving. So like I remember me thinking, I was like, all right, well, I know this is a program, so I'm like, we're gonna see that person tomorrow.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it's I don't know if it was effective, honestly. I don't know if people were touched or moved or whatever, but I just remember thinking, I was like, oh yeah, so and so is out. They'll be back tomorrow. I'll see them tomorrow. We'll do whatever.
Those programs are all well intentioned, but it's very hard to get people to really affect people in a way that they think about something like that they
Yeah.
don't just
Yeah.
assume that it won't happen to them. Oh, here it is: drug abuse resistance education.
Yeah,
Gosh.
drug abuse resistance education.
Oh, look.
This is the official DARE. Oh, DARE International.
They haven't
Wow.
changed their logo in 30
No.
years.
Ever. It still looks like the logo for that movie Rad, the BMX movie. That's a deep cut. It's like no.
I was gonna say I don't
edit
even
that
know that
into
one.
here.
So the whole
Yeah.
curriculum is just about drug education, basically.
Well, mental health, it looks like.
Mental health.
They didn't
I
really
guess,
have
okay,
that.
too.
Yeah.
No, they did not have that.
No, that wasn't really a thing when we were young.
I think I was the
Interesting.
last generation that wasn't a thing for.
You're
I was just looking
probably
up the
right.
movie Rad over here.
We're gonna have to do a side by side.
Wait, can you pull
That's
it up real
great,
quick,
Dave.
Don? Can you share it? I've never seen it.
Here.
Cult phenomenon.
There it
Rad?
is.
No.
And it-
Rad was like short for radical. And back in like the 1980s, everybody, like when you're into like BMX biking, like that was rad, man.
Yeah.
So
That does look
Rad
like
came out.
you're
like,
right. It looks like the logo. You're right.
right? You see what I'm saying?
That's great.
This movie was so bad that it's like a cult classic. And
Yeah.
Talia Shire, who played Lori Loughlin.
Oh yeah.
Remember her
Oh,
from
Lori
Full House?
Loughlin. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
She was just in an episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm playing herself.
Talia Shire from Rocky.
Exactly.
Oh, wow. Wait,
She's the mom.
Talia
I'm sure.
Shire is Adrian from Rocky?
Yes.
I bet she's like the same character in this.
She's like his mom, yeah. She's I mean,
I never wanted this. All I wanted was a simple life.
oh my